Following Thug's arrest, it quickly became apparent that the state were not planning to be easy on him. Thug was quickly denied bail for the first time on June 2nd, 2022, and it seemed that 6 days after bail was denied to him, his team decided to try a new strategy to get ahead of the flagrant self-snitching that he had been doing for the last 7 years, launching a petition and promotional campaign called Art on Trial, Protect Black Art, a movement which was co-signed by hundreds of rappers, singers, industry figures, and legal experts. The petition would liken rappers to actors and argue that rappers are actually just entertainers and storytellers who play the role of a hero or a villain. And it would argue that black art as a whole is being criminalized and that prosecutors are violating the right to free speech by punishing rappers for telling their stories of survival. It made a bizarre argument that the Rico case is based on erroneous lyrics like "I get all type of cash" to prove criminal intent. Now, for the record, this paragraph is maliciously deceptive, and it tries to take a very random and innocent lyric from the indictment to make it seem like this is all the evidence the state has and that the case is completely without merit, as well as sidestepping the fact that Thug had indeed spent the last 7 years dropping incredibly specific lyrics that appeared to reference specific crimes. Rapping about a murder that his gang did, the shooting of a rival's innocent mother and child, and outright admitting that he is the leader of this gang. But Thug's team really don't want you to focus on those lyrics. This petition actually ended by calling the use of lyrics in trials as a whole as un-American, and called for legislation protecting all killers, I mean rappers, from having their confessions, I mean lyrics, from being used to deliver justice for the victims, I mean stop rappers and their bosses making millions of dollars. Sorry, it gets really confusing. But when you know who started the petition, it all begins to make much more sense as to why it's so biased and disconnected from reality. This petition was actually created by Kevin Liles, the co-founder of Thug's label 300, clearly with a financial incentive to try and save his meal ticket from justice. Kevin Liles had actually unsuccessfully argued on Thug's behalf in his first bail hearing. In a shameless display of self-interest, Liles actually took the stand and began to tear up, trying to put on a show for the courtroom and act as if he was really concerned for the welfare of this downtrodden and misunderstood rapper, when in reality, this self-preserving suit was really just upset that his shot-calling rapping meal ticket might not be able to deliver any more lucrative murder raps to the label.
He's a witness here, Mr. Kevin Liles. He is with the record label, Your Honor.
I'm a 54-year-old father of 4. I'm kind of emotional because how good this guy is. My job is to seek out talented people. And I think God brought us together in a very weird way, but I think we were meant to be together. Jeffrey is not just an artist. He's an influencer. He is a person that I think was put here to change the people around him. And he's so talented. He's creative, he's innovative, and he's fearless. He's a risk taker. We can't limit it to just his lyrics or his music. He's a young man and he will be a contributing citizen to this world. And that's what I invest in. And I truly believe this whole thing that people are talking about, it's not him. The Jeffrey I know will give me clothes off his back. The Jeffrey I know, I can give him my kids, he'll give me his kids. That's the Jeffrey I know.
Do you believe that if granted bond on your oath, Mr. Williams would intimidate any witness?
Nah.
Obstruct the administration of justice?
No.
Be a danger to the community or property in the community?
Not at all.
Liles would put on a pretty spineless display that would have been a complete slap in the face to the victims and their families. Liles would liken Thug's case to wider hip-hop itself and nonsensically moan about how he doesn't understand why he has to defend hip-hop in a courtroom.
I've been in this music called hip-hop for 38 years. And for the life of me, I don't understand why I have to testify the good that hip-hop has done around the world. I've also started a company with Jeffrey called Young Stoner Life. And I remember what he said to me. We're not just starting a company, we're gonna change some lives. And that's what he's done. And he's definitely changed mine.
Now, he's not wrong. Life certainly did change since Thug started his rap career. The mother of Big Nut's life was certainly changed forever when her son was murdered. Rich Homie Quan's life was certainly changed forever when his manager and mentor was killed. And Kevin Liles' life changed drastically too when he started a label with Thug that had the same name as his gang who allegedly kill people, resulting in Kevin Liles ending up with a net worth of $60 million in 2024. Liles would go on to explain how he signed Thug and went into business with YSL.
Sign Mr. Williams.
Yes, he signed to us, and I hate to say that he signed to us because it's my partner, But we have two deals. One deal is a deal for him as an artist, solo artist, and the other deal is for Young Stoner Life.
Liles would explain how he's willing to back Thug personally and financially, and that he was ready to put up $1 million for off-duty police to make sure that he doesn't flee if he gets bail.
There's been testimony that if this trial, and I'm not saying the court would allow it, but if it doesn't take place for a year, there'd be over $1 million in expenses just for 24-hour security of police officers to ensure, off-duty police officers' second jobs to ensure Mr. Williams does not flee, does not get types of weapons, does not intimidate a witness, is not a danger to community or property in the community. Can he afford, from your personal knowledge and how much money he earns, can he afford that type of undertaking?
Jeffrey can afford it, and I can afford it, so it will be paid for.
And you are willing to back him as well?
I'm willing to back him personally and professionally.
Liles would defend Thug's violent lyrics, shirking his own responsibility for spreading these violent messages to the youth, and deflecting, saying this is all about discrimination against black art, skillfully likening fictional violent movies to hip-hop music, and tactfully omitting the fact that Thug's music discusses genuine crimes that actually happened in real life.
You mentioned lyrics. There's been a lot of argument by the prosecution about the lyrics in songs. Can you explain, if you have the insight, what is selling in the rap industry dealing with the lyrics, and why are they being promoted, and why are people wanting it?
Your Honor, you've I don't know how old you are, but I'm older than you. So I've been fighting this battle for over 40 years. It's not new, and it's funny how we're the #1 music in the world now, and they want to bring this back up. Now, we don't argue about any other movies or other genres of music that talk about I ran them over in my truck, or I got drunk and I went and shot him. We don't bring those things to court. But quote unquote our music, we've been on trial, and we constantly on trial about who we are, what we are, and why. And nobody gave us nothing. So we sit here on trial and we talk about lyrics. I don't understand the thing, but I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna keep fighting for it, because I believe self-expression, and I believe we should protect black art. We should protect black art. And I'm on trial for lyrics. Come on, man.
Now, I found this speech to be incredibly disingenuous and disrespectful to the victims. You gotta notice that Liles didn't even answer the actual question about the violent content of the lyrics. It's all just deflection. Lyrics? We're on trial again over lyrics? Murders? We're just rapping about real murders that actually happened, that we may or may not have actually done before going to the studio, that we may have arranged. How are we on trial over this again? I kinda took this whole thing very personally. As a journalist that covers gangster rap and decodes the lyrics that explains the real life violence going on in the streets behind the music, I often get so much hate from people telling me that I'm profiting from the violence, or even more insanely, that I am somehow personally responsible for violence and murders happening simply because I report on it. Now, I actually heard a good explanation of this as it being kind of like getting angry at the weatherman because it's raining outside. Now, usually I tell people if anyone should feel ashamed of profiting from real life crimes, it's the rappers and gangsters who actually commit those crimes and then make money boasting about having really done them. But then again, that's their life story. It's their struggle and experience, and no matter how offensive it is, you should always have a right to profit from your lived experience and telling your story. But if there's one group of people who genuinely do deserve to be admonished for profiting from violence, it's the record executives like Kevin Liles. Because these are the guys that are actually packaging up and distributing the violent and inflammatory statements that these gangster rappers make. Lyrics dissing or smoking their ops, mocking their enemies' mothers for getting shot at, or bragging to the world that they have the money to get people killed. It's the labels that commercialize these violent statements, which in itself actually does lead to more violence. And the labels assist in the stone throwing and then hide their hands the most, acting blissfully ignorant to the gang wars that they push, all while profiting millions of dollars. Literally, probably making more money from the violence than the actual rappers that are living it and committing it, and way more than the journalists like me that are even reporting on this madness. Now, seeing Kevin Liles suit up and go to bat for a criminal street gang purely for the sake of his own pockets, this moment really set the tone for a very dirty and depraved trial that saw Thug and his team pretty much doing anything that they could to avoid accountability for what appeared to be the actions of a very violent organization, who for the last 7 years wanted the whole whole world to know that they were a bunch of killers with bodies on bodies. But suddenly in 2022, after getting charged, now everybody wanted to make the whole thing about race and protecting black art, which I think actually does a massive disservice to the many talented black artists who tell fantastic stories without hurting or killing anybody. It's funny how Donald Glover's non-violent, inspiring, and electrifying black art doesn't need defending from murder accusations. It's funny how Kendrick Lamar's music has never led to a random Rico indictment just falling from the sky on him. J. Cole never needed his daddy from the label to come and try and bail him out of jail. At the end of the day, this is more about protecting Kevin Liles' pockets than it is about protecting black art. But anyway, after Kevin Liles failed to secure Young Thug bail, after sitting in jail for a month, Thug would make one of his first public statements since the arrest, a pre-recorded audio message that was played on stage at Hot 97's Summer Jam Festival show, along with a picture of Thug behind bars. And in it, he would frame himself as being unfairly persecuted for his music and telling the world that he started a new petition to protect black art.
Hey, how y'all doing? I just want to say thank you to all my friends and my family for coming out and supporting us. Your support during this time means a lot to us, this isn't just about me or what I feel. I always use my music as a form of artistic expression. And now I see that black artists, rappers, don't have that, freedom. There's a clean time to protect black art artists and keep friends with us. I love you all.
After that, Meek Mill would give a speech to the crowd explaining the background of the Protect Black Art movement and saying that he's been targeted for his lyrics too.
If you know me, if you've been following me in music, I come from the neighborhoods that you come from. I rap about the same Islam and gun and I rap about. So basically, if we charging people for their crimes, I'm basically guilty of everything they talk about because I talk about the same things. So for the people that support us, I want to say support Young Thug, support YSL, support Gunna. Write them guys, make sure you hit the officials, your governments, whoever's in control in your town, and fight for people like us that fight for you guys, black art, protect black art, because now they're using our lyrics against us.
The same day, Thug's message was played at Summer Jam, 300 the label had spent some of their budget producing a slick 2.5-minute commercial for their Protect Black Art movement. That included celebrity guests like Post Malone and DJ Khaled, as well as street-adjacent rappers like G Herbo and Polo G. The commercial would take very selective examples from other genres of music, like Bob Marley's I Shot the Sheriff or Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, where they say, I just killed a man. Again, this is more disingenuous misdirection, as from my research, both Bob Marley and Freddie Mercury didn't catch any bodies or shoot up any barbershops before their music careers. Thug and Kevin Liles weren't the only ones complaining either. Fat Joe would appear on CNN to claim that he lied about crime on all of his songs throughout his career and to say that Thug is being unfairly targeted.
I've been rapping professionally for 30 years. I've lied in almost 95% of my songs. I write like I feel that day. I'm just being creative. If you could probably you couldn't build the jail high enough for the lyrics I've said on songs, which are all untrue. They know those lyrics ain't real. They know that's creativity, but if it helps their case, they'll use it to put these guys in jail.
Kevin Liles and 300 were doing the most to protect Young Thug, and it made sense. He was their gravy train, pulling in millions of dollars for the label with his creative and violent raps about his life as an Atlanta gang leader. But ultimately, however, the efforts to block the prosecution from using music at the trial was completely futile, and the state would go ahead reading and playing lyrics at the trial, which led to some of the most bizarre, iconic, and hilarious courtroom moments I have ever seen. On November the 9th, 2023, the judge would officially shoot down Kevin Liles and Brian Steele's efforts and ruled that song lyrics were not protected by the First Amendment and could indeed be used in the trial. Prosecutors argued in the indictment that numerous lyrics were essentially confessions detailing crimes, gang affiliations, and intentions. They used specific bars from his tracks to suggest his involvement in murders and assaults and planned to introduce them into the courtroom. One of the lyrics was the song Dream with Young Thug and Yak Gotti, where Gotti says that he has bodies on bodies. Now, this wasn't a good look being accused of the murder of Big Nut, but something that struck me is how the defense shamelessly tried to lie in the trial, telling the court that the song was released in 2013 before Nut was killed. Completely untrue.
Bodies on Bodies is that he's been involved with some homicides.
Okay, so I don't know about some homicides, but he's accused of one in here. But the Bodies on Bodies, let's see when that was released. Released in 2013. And there's a distinction, by the way, between when something is written, when it's recorded, when it's released. But it's released in 2013. When is the Donovan Thomas murder? 2015. 2 years later. So what does bodies on bodies have to do with the murder of Donovan Thomas? Nothing.
So, with a defense that was literally willing to lie to the judge's face, anything was really possible for Thug. Interestingly, the judge would actually pull him up on this, and he would let Yak Gotti, notably wearing Air Force Ones in court, to just say that the song was actually recorded in 2013 with zero proof or evidence.
I thought he released Dream. Is that what you're saying this song comes from?
Yes.
And that was...
well, that's what the state says it's from, yes.
I thought that was released April 17, 2015. That's what I show on the state's page 43 of states 18.
I pulled this 2013 from the state's particularized motion.
So I think it's released on Apple Music April 17th of 2015. When was Mr. Thomas?
Recorded 2013. Recorded 2013.
But it was released April the 17th of 2015.
That may be, but if it was...
When did the homicide occur?
January 2015. But if it was recorded in 2013, how in 2013, recorded, correct? How when recorded in 2013 did Mr. Kendrick know that Donovan Thomas was going to be murdered in January of 2015?
Now, as you can see, Your Honor, my client already had bodies on bodies in 2013, so why would he bother catching another body in 2015 and then rap about it? Make it make sense! Meanwhile, Brian Steele tried to argue that just because Thug is singing about a crime doesn't mean that he's a part of it, with the judge masterfully clapping back and ultimately explaining exactly why the lyrics are indeed relevant.
They are saying because he is singing about it, he is now part of a crime.
No, I don't think so. I think that they're using his particular lyrics for other purposes. They're not, like I said, they're not criminalizing the fact that First Amendment's not on trial. It's not. It's not on trial.
They are using his words to say he is a bad man.
No, they're not. They're using his words to show that he's involved in a gang in contravention of count 1 in this particular indictment. Remember, Mr. Steele, evidence can be used for different purposes. You can't do things that would be criminal in nature because then they wouldn't be protected speech.
They are just assuming things, and that is why they are targeting the lyric. It is not proof in and of itself. They are targeting the right to free speech, and that's wrong. Then they are hiding it in, well, it's really going to an element.
They prosecute your clients because of the songs they wrote. I mean, they're using some of the songs, or at least attempting to prove other things that your clients may have been involved in, or their criminal for different elements that they're authorized to do. So I don't think that it's an attack on free speech.
The prosecution would also clap back, referencing Johnny Cash lyrics brought up earlier, saying Johnny Cash was never accused of murder and that Thug's lyrics are proclamations of real violence that happened.
Let's just look a few times. Where is Delilah when it comes to, or Delia, when it comes to Johnny Cash? We didn't hear one thing from the defense that Johnny Cash was accused of killing that person. We don't know if there was even a murder. And in none of those cases where we had those supposed comparisons, did we have any mention of any motion from the state, motion for the defense, or ruling from the court on any of those issues. When we heard things like, this is all just fantasy. Your Honor, someone could look at that indictment and see one thing for sure, that's not fantasy. People are dead, murdered, and a gang exists. Those aren't fantasies. This terminology here, again and again and again, that Deputy District Attorney Hilton and Special Assistant District Attorney Floyd went through, demonstrating the interconnections between these proclamations of violence and defiance and the crimes in this case. That's not fantasy, Your Honor. That is tragically real.
The prosecution would also clap back at the earlier lies from the defense, claiming that the song Dream was made before the murder of Nut, saying that the lyrics are relevant whenever they were recorded.
But in terms of the song Dream, my colleagues have told me that the 2013 was a hypothetical. I'm looking to my left to make sure I'm correct on that. Was a typographical error. But regardless, and it's actually that 2015 date, I believe, is the correct one. That the court read, or that would be in our more current materials, that was repaired. But that gets to this date with regard to 403, Your Honor, and when did something happen? You know, all of that discussion really seemed to bypass that we've got a racketeering and gang case here. And this criminal organization has endured.
The prosecution would explain which lyrics they plan to introduce at the trial, and they made it very clear that they believe that the lyrics do support the fact that YSL is indeed a gang, and downplaying the arguments that rappers on trial, rather than the YSL gang, saying that they didn't randomly just arrest Run DMC for being rappers 30 years ago, that they actually indicted Thug and YSL for modern day crimes.
So we take a look, Your Honor, at what exactly is the issue that's before the court case, in this case, today, and that is YSL gang evidence admissible in a YSL gang prosecution? Because the question is not rap lyrics. The question is gang lyrics. And the question in particular, Your Honor, are YSL gang lyrics either coming as party admissions, either coming as adoptive admissions, either coming as co-conspirator admissions, or coming as declarations against interest for relevant purposes from YSL gang members and associates. So the issue here is not rap. This is not randomly the state attempting to bring in Run DMC from the 80s. This is not the state attempting to bring in some other type of lyric evidence. This is specific. These are party admissions. They happen to come in the form of lyrics, Judge.
Anyway, when the courtroom was treated to classic Young Thug anthems of self-snitching, it was a wild ride, as lawyers would read out lyrics from these trap bangers for the whole court to hear, and at the time, it was looking bad and hilarious.
This is on the Slime Language 2 album, Your Honor, which is a compilation album, which is a compilation album by Young Stoner Life, Young Thug, who was Jeffrey Williams, and Gunna, who was Sergio Kitchens, both Mr. Williams and Mr. Kitchens being co-conspirators on this in this indictment. Here, Your Honor, in this case, again for count 1, Rico, my really be slime and we committing them crimes. When they say wanna be slime, go catch you a body, I mean you go out and you go murder someone. That's how you can become slime. You go murder someone and you go catch a body. And we had these 3 individuals who were murdered as a part of this indictment.
But it wasn't just the legal professionals spitting that hot fire in the courtroom. The prosecution actually made a motion to be granted the AUX and officially play YSL street anthems out loud in the courtroom. Songs like Halftime were played, and Young Thug would jam out in court and point out his immaculate flow to Brian Steele, eliciting a laugh from the stern-faced defender. Interestingly, Thug's defense would also play songs of their own. On January the 11th, 2024, Young Thug's iconic hit Lifestyle was played in court in another viral moment that brought some of the court to tears. Look, sometimes when that rich gang gets spun, you just gotta shed a tear. There's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, Lifestyle was actually slapping so hard in the courtroom that AV guy tried to hit a reload and got shot down by the judge.
One time's enough, Mr. Kokomo. All right, okay.
The judge would ask Brian Steele, after the song had played, why it should be included in the trial, with Steele saying that he wanted to show the jury that Rich Gang is a gang that Thug is part of that isn't a violent street gang.
Mr. Steele, you want me to admit this, and what's the reason?
And they are wearing shirts that you see in this video. The shirts are RG, and RG, it would be my contention, stands for Rich Gang. And Rich Gang, we're here with, an allegation of a criminal street gang, and I want the jurors, I think I'm entitled, I would like to, entitled to show the jurors what Rich Gang is. That is their music compilation.
Now, the real reason is a viral moment, and I would say that Brian Steele is an artist in the courtroom just like Young Thug is in the studio. However, this tactic didn't really go down well with the judge, who snapped back at Steele, saying that it was irrelevant, with Brian Steele saying that he didn't understand why the judge thought that.
This is a public domain.
It doesn't make a difference if it's public or not. You still have to have some basis of frame of reference to then kind of just lay the foundation from that. You still have to kind of orient it as to place and space. I'm not saying that it's not admissible. It's just, I don't think that unless he has some nexus with that. I mean, then we'd be up here all the time and you'd just be showing people, oh, did you understand this? Or is this the person that we're looking at? You've got to have context. And if he can't provide context, he's not the best person to probably lay the foundation for that. I mean, he can state the obvious, but he's got no context. Much like, or different like if you have Mr. Williams or Mr. Lamar come in and they say, okay, well listen, yeah, I'm in the video, and let me tell you, in 2012 or 13 with the foundation, this is what was going on, and here's why we're singing about, Rich Guy. Do you see the difference?
No.
Well, okay. We'll have to disagree professionally on that one.
I'm not trying to disagree.
No. Look,
You're asking me a question.
I'm asking you a question, but I'm also telling you why I would probably sustain the state's objection.
Steele then attempts to flip the script and play mind games with the judge, saying that if the context is too weak to include lifestyle, then they should let them exclude all of the state's songs and music videos.
I, as the gatekeeper, are not going to continue on that line of introduction.
I don't want to raise a frivolous motion.
No.
That is the gatekeeper that you are going to do, and that the gate's not opening up right now. I also like in the court to, when I make the motion, I'm making it now, then any of the state's witnesses who are going to talk about lyrics, going to talk about videos, going to talk about photographs, they have no nexus. They are just pulling things off the internet that's in the public domain. And then if this honorable court just adopts this, or not adopts, if enforces this ruling, then I'm making a motion to exclude that evidence.
I rule on what's in front of me, okay? It's disingenuous to say that, okay? I look at what is presented before me. I try and get it right for both sides. I am not admitting or excluding evidence in a vacuum. So for you to say that is disingenuous to the court.
Judge Glanville did not like it, but at least we got to spin lifestyle in the court. And from here, this twisted try not to bop challenge would continue in the courtroom, as YSL heaters were spun back to back in the courtroom, where members would have to try their best not to do involuntary gun singers at these bangers or face a punishment of 20 years in prison. According to one comment after that last song was played, jurors requested to hear With That and Harambe, as well as asking if they could get some women up in there. Even if the judge didn't like the move, Brian Steele's decision to play lifestyle in the court was iconic and viral. People would go on to make TikToks of how they would have reacted in the courtroom hearing lifestyle. Now really, this was just a genius move, because rather than letting the prosecution focus on the particularly violent lyrics, Brian Steele actually weaponized Young Thug's talent and creativity. He had the whole room vibing out to lifestyle just so that they could see the charm of this talented trap goddess, creating a spectacle that shone a spotlight on the absurdity of these songs being played in a courtroom context at all. As time went on, more songs would be played in the court, like the street classic Slime, leaving Thug and others trying their darndest not to bust out a 1-2 dance move in the courtroom. But it wasn't just lyrics. Even Thug's stage name was brought under scrutiny when he absurdly claimed that Thug actually stood for truly humble under God.
He would be truly humble under God. That's what Thug means.
You already identified Jeffrey as a performer. What's his performer's name?
Young Thug.
And do you know, if you do know, what, if anything, Thug stands for?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen, jury.
Truly humble under God.
He would even try to use pictures of Thug wearing the Fear of God brand as evidence to back up that claim. But in the end, despite the 7 years of self-snitching and mountains of self-incriminating lyrics that could have been used against Thug, none of it mattered, as the prosecution's poor grasp of which lyrics were truly specific incrimination and which ones were just general gangster talk left their whole argument looking confused. And Brian Steele's masterful plays in the courtroom just highlighted how absurd it was to use Thug's creative work as proof of his involvement of the crime. Not saying he didn't do those things or that he wasn't what the state was accusing him of, but on a micro level, these lyrics didn't actually prove that Thug was involved in the crime. So the prosecution would have to try another tactic, using snitches and informants to try and build the case against Thug from the testimony of those who were close to him when the crimes happened. But ironically, the state's star witness would prove to be incredibly unreliable, untrustworthy, and just a complete loose cannon. And with the whole case resting on the shoulders of this one unhinged individual, the prosecution's chances would be precarious. And in the end, it would be the unexpected maneuvers of this superstar witness that ended up destroying the whole case against Thug, as one man would haphazardly bring down the entire case, as well as two judges, maybe by accident or maybe on purpose, ultimately giving Thug a passage out of this trouble. Because at the start, it looked like one man was going to be the downfall of Thug, but in the end, that one person actually ended up saving Thug. And of course, that man was none other than YSL Woody.